So far, Andor has been one of the most consistent Star Wars series. Even though each episode spends more time on certain storylines, every week we're getting a solid episode that advances the characters and overall story. In this episode, we spent most of our time on Aldhani, as Cassian and crew prepare for the big heist. Last episode, I had a problem caring at all about any of the other rebels, but I'm glad we got to spend more time with each of them and get to know them a little more, mainly why they're risking their life to fight back against the Empire. Characterizing them before the action begins next episode is definitely a tactic to make their death hurt more, and if I had to guess which person will definitely die during the fight, sadly I would have to pick Skeen, but I could honestly see almost any of them, other than Cassian, of course, kick the bucket. The only character that I've been disappointed with out of the group is Cinta, who we really know nothing about other than the fact that she's a healer and she's tough. I'm interested to learn where Vel and her were heading off to and why they aren't sticking with the main group for the mission, but we'll more than likely figure that out next episode, and hopefully with it will come a little more characterization. Other than Cinta, almost every major character was covered in this episode, which for the most part puts to rest the concern that I had last week about every storyline and character getting enough time during each episode. We only got a few short scenes away from Cassian on Aldhani, but it was enough to catch up with each character and see what they're up to during this time. I'm really hoping that there is a reason to return to Ferrix soon, so that we can catch up on characters like Bix and Marva. Someone that really surprised me was the Imperial Lieutenant, who we learn is fighting to avenge a loved one. Not only did I like getting to see inside the Imperial base and what it's like on a normal day-to-day basis, but doing it through the eyes of someone who we know is a defector, but the Empire doesn't, adds a completely new layer to the scenes and his actions. The episode began with Cyril and his mother on Coruscant, and even though we didn't get it in this episode, I do hope we get to see a little more of Coruscant from Cyril's perspective. We got to see him looking out the window at the beginning, and it's a nice reminder that even though the entire planet is made up of skyscrapers and cities, not everyone is a Jedi or senator. There are levels between the wealthy politicians and the lower class, and I would love to see that fleshed out with this character, even just a little. We get to see the complex relationship between Cyril and his mother, and his family as a whole, and if this keeps up, I don't know if I'll be able to see him as a real villain, because right now, I'm empathizing with him way too much. He loses the career he left home to pursue, and returns to his mother criticizing him and trying to fix his life. She calls up the uncle to help him find a more respectable job, but it looks like he's going to ultimately decide to continue his pursuit of Cassian. Family trouble, especially a nagging parent trying to find an income for their child, is something I think many people can relate to, and although I've really come around on Cyril as a character, he was marketed as a villain for the series. He'll likely lean more into that role as he pursues Cassian, but it'll take a while for me to change the way I look at him. The other main villain of the series, Dedra Meero, only got one short scene in the episode, but we got to see her continue her search for whatever organized rebel effort is happening across various planets. She lists some familiar planets and technology that were nice Easter eggs, and the important thing to take away from the scene is the validation that Meero gets for her search. Despite her doubts about wasting time in these reports, her efforts are supported by her assistant, who convinces her it's all worthwhile. Shout out to that guy for being a supportive colleague, something the Empire sucks at having. Staying on Coruscant, we got to see two short scenes with Mon Mothma, and while I was enjoying Cassian's story, these are the moments that I look forward to. I love seeing Coruscant again, as well as O'Reilly playing Mon Mothma again. Even though the two scenes do very little story-wise, they describe more of what her day-to-day life is like, and what the family of a senator is like, something that we've never really seen before, unless of course you're counting the Organas, but it was never like this. The first scene shows the tension between Mon and her daughter, and the lack of support she receives from her husband. According to Tony Gilroy, Mon and Perrin were an arranged marriage at age of 16, and as an audience we can definitely tell that this wasn't marriage by love. Anyone like myself who already disliked Perrin from his short appearance in the last episode is now ready to run through a brick wall for the divorce papers after he's shown in this episode. Maybe he's got his loving moments, but we see him just sit in the chair as Mon argues with her daughter, and then the two are shown being on two very different wavelengths when in the taxicab, and he doesn't even have enough empathy to remember the driver's name. I must say though that the senatorial penthouse and the Coruscant Airways were both visually impressive. Everything in the series has looked amazing so far, and there hasn't been any scene that breaks the immersion for me. The stark contrast between the wooded Eldani and the pristine sets of Coruscant also help distinguish not only the characters but also the themes, and how some people are willing to rebel in dirtier ways than others. The episode ends with Luthen in his little shop, and it took a while for me to understand what was going on here. And to be honest, I don't think I'll completely understand until next week. Luthen is on the radio trying to make contact with who I assume is Vel, because he's nervous about the mission on Aldhani. But when he mentions not being careful with Cassian, and he and Vel can be traced back, which I'm assuming is just that he can be linked to the mission if something goes sideways and they get captured. The two mention something happening, and this being what it took, and the only thing that I can think of is that the mission's success, and possibly the credits as a result, will lead into a much larger rebel effort against the Empire. Whatever they're referring to might also have something to do with whatever Vel and Cinta are up to. Something the series has done a good job of so far is advancing the story and answering questions, but still ending with something that can get fans talking and looking forward to the next episode. The Axe Forgets focuses on the Aldhani mission as the members overcome their mistrust for each other, while still updating the audience on the rest of the storylines, earning a rating of 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what you thought of the 5th episode in the comments below. Remember to like the video, and subscribe for more reviews like this, and remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Thank you all for watching, and remember, the Force will be with you, always.